Hello, Virgo. I'm Jordan with the Green Moon Healing Spirit. I'm going to be doing your tarot card reading for the month of September 2025. What a time to be a Virgo. There's so much going on right now. I only hope I can keep up with it. Virgo, you are kind of the star of the show, I have to say, at least right now. Things are very interesting. Sun is in your sign, and happy birthday to all the Virgos that are watching. I'm going to be pulling 10 cards from this Emerald Moon deck, and I'll be clarifying with 3 cards on each of these cards. I'll be pulling you a fantasy oracle, and then at the end I'll pull you a talisman. I know I'm feeling a lot of the energy going on in the stars right now. It may just be my own personal sign, but Virgo, there's so much happening. Um, a lot of signs have been getting this sort of self-evaluation energy, and I think you are chief amongst them. Of course, the cards don't always match up all the time. Sometimes they just say what they want. So, who really knows with the variances in the birth charts and all that sort of thing. But there is a lot going on for you, Virgo. We have a lot to discuss, I think. Some things with your planetary alignments and karmic demands, Saturn, your ruling planet, all that sort of stuff. It's very interesting. Okay. All right, Spirit. What do we have for Virgo for the month of September? Any messages for them that they should know, that they can count on? Any guidance that you can give them? Okay. Yes, Virgo, quite a bit happening in the stars for you. I do see a lot of very mental energy, I think, but we'll see what happens with the cards. Like I said, I get all kinds of readings. All right, Spirit, what do we have for Virgo? Ace of Swords, a couple cards. Four of Pentacles, Six of Wands, Nine of Wands, got a few cards. Nine of Cups, and this card came out. I'm going to put this down here. I will read this card when we pull the rest of these. I knew she would come out. She's been in almost every reading. Of course, it's that time of year, Virgo. But we'll read her when everything else comes out, okay? Okay, Virgo. So I do see this as being rather resonant with what I had expected as what's going on in the sky for you right now. First, we have the Ace of Swords. This speaks to truth. This speaks to communication. This speaks to newness, ideas, lots of things. I do see also this connected here with the next card. There is a truth you may be discovering about yourself. You may be feeling stuck. You may be feeling financial, just a sense of grippingness, maybe a little bit too clingy to money. But I do see this as a static energy in a place that's kind of pinned down by the earthly things, but it's kind of coming from a position of thinking that it's not. It's almost like too carefully clinging to its money because it thinks it has a lot, but really doesn't. It could be that this new truth about you, I do know, of course, Virgo, the sun is in Virgo. It is get to work time, which I think we're having here. Um, but we also have a time for self revision because it is conjunct with the South Node. There is a great deal of sort of self cleansing in the first house of self, which is like discovering things about yourself, having to let things go about yourself, and all kinds of other things happening as well. So now I do see this. The Six of Wands is a card that speaks to victory and working to, or at least feeling like you're walking toward the right thing after kind of hard work. I do see it is a passionate card. It is sort of speaks to a unity of passion as going towards something. It's forward motion into something with a passionate approach. I see this may be you kind of engaging in the self revision time. It's a little bit of a victory lap, is a good word to put this card. And I'm getting sort of a march toward contentment. Of course, there is hard work here. There is a bit of, I do see that you may see yourself as needing some kind of rest or support. This is kind of a time for that. There are lots of things in the planets sort of happening at this point. We have a couple things going on in the second house. I know Mars is in the second house of Libra. There's a couple other things going on, of course. Besides that, we have Mercury coming in. Saturn is retrograding out in Pisces, which for you is seventh house, contracts, that sort of thing, long-term relationships. There's a little bit of discussion, though, with Mars and Libra discussing about money matters. I know that there's a little bit of maybe you are discovering some sense of truth that maybe you need to um, kind of revise some ways that you're going about um, cleansing and sort of healing. I do see this as being you trying to move toward contentment. I see this as being a sense of contentment that you may be moving toward. It could be, and of course, I'll clarify all of these cards. I see you perceiving that you're working hard toward resolving something using some new idea, some new truth, some maybe self discovery. It may be that you are kind of discovering some mechanism in your money control. You know, maybe that you kind of in your new truth moment you are discovering that you feel a little bit stuck. Um, you may kind of have this vision that you need to evolve this position. There's a lot kind of going on with that, the control and balance, communication, that sort of thing involving money. And I see that was sort of like the Mars and Libra energy, which is happening. We also have a pretty good idea of clarity and ideas, communications, of course, because Mercury is coming in, your ruling planet, Virgo, is coming into your sign, conjunct the sun, and then it is exalted there. So communications may be extraordinarily um, strong for you. I do see. Um, and you may be using communication to kind of clarify the problems that you might be finding. And I do think that maybe you're trying to expand financially. I think there's quite a bit happening with that. And also for you, we have Jupiter in Cancer, which is for you, I believe, your 10th house. So actually, for you, I believe it's your 11th house. I'm sorry. So I think that you kind of see this goal here. This Jupiter is expanse and growth. I think that you believe that you can achieve this sort of hope and dream of letting go of this financial stuckness, and maybe moving into some more expansive growth. I just kind of getting that with the way that the things are coming up here. Does have to do with money though, I think, or at least earthly things. This could be some asset or something of that sort. There is a sense of forward motion, and I think you're coming from a good place with passion trying to lean in. But that is to say, you may see that you need to take a rest um, sort of at the eclipse time. This is the eclipse, which is coming right here, the eclipse in Pisces, which it does speak to a little bit of necessity for healing, as what I'm seeing here. You may be identifying the things in your life and kind of calling them out, the way that they need to improve, the way that they need to expand, the way that they need to get better. And I do see that the overall goal, which of course, anytime this is the goal, it's really great to do this self-evaluation so that you can kind of mark things for what needs to happen. This is a time to grow, to purify, to revise. Virgo, the sun in Virgo, of course, speaks to an element of kind of perfecting things. And I think you know, Virgo, how very challenging that can be. It's easy to say perfecting things. I think you know how difficult that can be. Um, this Nine of Cups is a point of contentment. And I do see that this new passionate sort of concept for you is walking toward this. Of course, I think that this thing here, it's not an obstacle. I think it just speaks to the challenge that might come to getting there. It's going to take effort. It's not going to be easy. It might tire you out. And the eclipse, I think, is kind of stirring up some of this energy to allow you to see. This, of course, coming with the Saturn retrograde in Pisces. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. I'll pull some more cards and then we'll read this. Okay, Spirit, anything else for Virgo? Oh, we got the Lovers. Okay. Queen of Pentacles. Almost flipped. Okay, we have Four of Swords. And we have the Moon. Very fascinating. Now I am going to pull a guiding card for you for the month. I always pull a guiding card at the end. Spirit, can I have a guiding card for Virgo for September? Any card that can guide them. Okay, got this one here. Oof. Nine of Swords, Virgo. Okay. All right, Virgo. Let's talk a little bit. There is so much happening here. There's a lot of major arcana now coming up in the second half of the month. And it's got to do with karma, what is right. It's, I think, relationships and people, and also a lot of about communication. Like I said, Mercury is spending time with the sun in your house of self. I think you may be having a lot to do with communication and maybe trying to organize yourself, trying to develop yourself. course, there is a little bit about relationships, partners, communications, contracts as well. I know with the seventh house activation with Pisces, there's a lot going on there. I think you're having to kind of revise some of the things with relationships, um, also with your own self, with communications. I think there's going to be a lot of very stirring energy for you this month, Virgo. It's not going to be easy. Virgo is, of course, it can be a challenging archetype because it is so focused on trying to make things perfect, to make them right. It's trying to work toward that almost unachievable standard, which is stressful. And I think that speaks to your guiding card. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But first, let's talk about justice. Justice has been coming up in almost every reading. I think it sort of senses that Libra is coming, but Virgo is the sign just prior to Libra. So justice is all about the return of things based on the natural progression of what has come before. It is all about karmic return, which the North Node and Pisces with Saturn retrograde has to do with the seventh house for you, which is all about contracts, long-term committed partnership. There's also second house activation, of course. So there's a lot about that sort of thing happening. I do see that kind of speaking to the lover's situation in this dream. I almost feel like there's a revision of how you're going to obtain the dream and what you need to do, what you need to change to get there. And there's going to be a lot of things coming and going, a lot of new energies coming in and a lot of old energies leaving, things that need to go and things that need to come based on how you've set yourself up. I do see here you're willing to put in the work, Virgo. I do see that. The Justice card coming up under the Ace of Swords in this way, it speaks to, I believe, a self-identified truth. And that truth may demand things to come in karmically. It may also speak to things that may need to leave. It may have to do with the contracts, relationships, communication. This combination is an interesting one. You may be discovering something about a relationship or some long-term commitment. I'm not sure, of course, what it will say now, but I do know that you seem to be comparing this to how you're going to become content and whether things are right for you, whether things are correct, whether it is what is supposed to be. We'll discuss when we clarify, of course, but just know that justice, it doesn't really allow for this contentment to affect it. So I'm interested to see how that's going to go. Justice is really a very independent card. It is not really swayed by desire, contentment. It may speak to the soul's demand to feel contentment, or maybe it's deserving to feel contentment based on the fact that it perceives the hard work and it's been through the hardship and it's trying to move forward and is willing to put in the work to get to this contentment. But the Justice card, it can reward that, but it's going to depend on all of the things that come, and we'll clarify. The Lover's card, though, coming in under the Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles is sort of stuck, and the Lovers has to do with has to do with your relationships and communication. You may be finding a challenge. Maybe you feel that a relationship has been keeping you stuck. And this speaks to that sort of seventh, second house activation with Libra, as well as first house activation in your own self. There's a lot of revision happening with the South Node in sort of cleansing things that it may deem necessary to go. Um, I just, whenever we get this sort of situation, it does seem like you're coming from a perspective of self-worth. You know what you're worth, Virgo, and it's coming in underneath this Six of Wands, which leads me to believe that the pride in the pride that you take in yourself, the way that you carry yourself, you are striving to achieve what you perceive to be ideal, and it's coming from a very real place. Virgo is a very in tune sign with communication, of course, with Mercury being your ruling planet. But I almost see that justice is really demanding a review of your relationship because you may not be honoring your own self worth. And it may be keeping you somewhat stuck. Some relationship or long contract, some kind of thing that's been around for a while. And I think justice is sort of demanding a review of whether that should stay. It looks to me like you may be perceiving a new truth about something being stuck, and it may be having to do with the relationships that you have. Um, there may be a little bit of just not struggle, but just work. I mean, hard work. Maybe may make you a little bit tired to get to this point of contentment, of course. Um, but the eclipse is kind of calling for that. And there's also a new moon in Virgo, which speaks to like a new sense. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the Queen of Pentacles and Justice with the lovers in between them like this, I do get a sense that there is a review and it's coming. This is sort of Libra energy, but Virgo uses this approach as well. Things that need to go have to go. Things that need to stay get to stay. It's about refining. It's about perfecting. It's about working toward the ideal dream, this contentment. And I do see with the Queen of Pentacles, the self-worth that you identify with yourself, you should not mitigate that because of somebody else. That's what I'm getting with a lot of this reading is somebody else or some other relationship or some sort of contractual agreement. With Justice and the Lovers coming up like that, I do get a sense of a contractual sort of situation, which is seventh second house activated energy. I just get that for you. And it does feel maybe a little bit stuck, like something is a little bit stuck. And maybe you perceive that, maybe Justice perceives that, and maybe not part of your dream. I think Justice with coming up, it would be in between this Nine of Cups and this Lover's card. Justice may be weighing the dream with your relationship. Okay? This is very possible, the way that this came up like this. And I think you're having to choose, Virgo, now whether or not this is going to work for you. Whether this is going to satisfy you and get you toward this point of contentment. Because you know what you're worth, you know your value, you know what you bring to the world, you're well in control of the things that you know and control here. You absolutely are. The Queen is she's so practical and she understands what she's capable of and what she's able to do. She knows exactly what she has, and I see her looking right at this relationship as if it's an evaluation. You are measuring whether this relationship is up to your standard. I really see that. We'll clarify, of course. And now following this point with Justice, we have the Four of Swords, which at this point, the sun is in Libra. This is very Libran energy because it is a place of careful meditation, pensive energy. And another interesting astrological event, at the same time the sun is coming into Libra, Mars is leaving Libra, which Mars in Libra is not its favorite placement. Mars is not allowed to behave the way that it wants to behave when it's in Libra. And Libra does not behave the way that it would like to behave because of Mars being there. But Mars moving into Scorpio is a much more strategic approach to action and how it's going to achieve what it wants to achieve. So now Libra, I do believe it with the sun in Libra, it's a place of deep pensive meditation that's allowing itself to balance things like justice truly wants to. This is the review at this point. This is where the queen in you is really truly trying to compare and decide what it's going to do, I think, with this relationship. And of course, I do think that this Nine of Wands and the Four of Swords coming up like this to me speaks a little bit of the exhaustive effort. I think that it is kind of giving you a little bit of stress, even though I think this is you trying to not be stressed, maybe take these things and just sitting with them, okay, these ideas, and just kind of being and letting them kind of come to you and just letting them work themselves out in your head rather than you consciously demanding things. However, I do think it is making you a little bit exhausted because it's not an easy decision. I think you're having a lot that you need to balance, whether this relationship is going to fit with you being content, whether it is actually good for you. It depends, of course. Whenever we get these sort of situations, these relationships aren't easy because there's lots of things involved. You say the relationship involved or the relationship ending to better the dream. That's such an easy thing to say, but not an easy thing to do. There's lots of things. There's children sometimes in relationships. There's lots of shared assets, lots of pooled resources. And I do see this relationship as being tied to the money. And it may be that you feel a little stuck because of maybe this relationship tying you down to a budget or whatever. It may be that you don't feel the allowance to expand the way that you would like, or maybe things aren't taking off in this relationship. Some of you might be in a new relationship. It may be that the pooling of resources, you may be a little bit stuck because you might be putting in more. It may be that you're having to support quite a bit. Maybe you're the budgeter and you're finding that things are just taking up from your own. Maybe it's taking from your own pool into its own and maybe not giving you what you would like to see come out. Of course, we will clarify these cards, but I do see a relationship evaluation coming up for you. I think it has to do with money as well. And the Queen of Pentacles, maybe not just money, it's earthly things, the house, assets, real things, earthly things. I don't know whether you think that this relationship is worth, the restriction that you're feeling maybe. And it is causing you a bit of pause where you're actually consciously reviewing it. But I do know that to utilize Mars and Scorpio, meditation is a really powerful tool to sort of allow Mars to take the action that it wants to take there. And now coming up with the moon, this is such an interesting energy to come up under the dream. I do see with this for you. Virgo is an earth sign. It likes to keep its feet on the ground. The moon is a card that water signs navigate very well. You're not a water sign, Virgo. I do see a little bit of possibly confusion. That's not to say that you will for sure be confused, but it's coming up under this point of contentment. It may be right now that you don't really perceive. We do have a new moon in Virgo, of course, coming later on in the month. And that speaks to me of a new cycle that you're able to engage with. Some of you, this could mean that you are actually starting something new, that this is like a second chance. We've had another new moon in Virgo. This is kind of a rare occurrence where you're allowed to sort of self-evaluate and test again, some kind of idea. and the South Node still remaining in Virgo while the Sun moves into Libra, it just gets to be, I feel like you're just having to navigate a little bit of intuitive force. It's kind of like go with your gut is what I'm getting, because you see the queen knows what you're worth. This is an objective sort of ideology with the queen sensing your self-worth. And you're worth a lot, what you bring to the relationship, what you bring to the rest of the world, and you perceive that as being something that is having high ideals, marching toward victory in its dream. It's Virgo is a beautifully innocent energy, and it's highly intelligent as well. You're very self-aware. You know how to get to what you want. It takes work, and Virgo is all about work. I just don't know that you're finding that this dream is going to work with this relationship the way that it does, the way that it has. This may be that review. And I hope that you don't get lost in this moon energy to get to this dream. It's going to take a lot of navigation and intuition. That a lot of these things may not be real. There's lots of obstacles as well. This card can be a little bit confusing. We will clarify everything, and now this card came up as your guiding card. This is all about stress. This is all about nightmares. This is all about anxiety, things being on your mind. And because of this card, I do get a sense, unfortunately, Virgo, some of you may be ending a relationship and it may not be easy for you. Some of you may just be worried about how the relationship, this could just represent a great amount of worry, anxiety, about your relationship and how it's serving you, how it's going to work out for you, how it's going to work out for you both, how it's going to work out for all the things involved, all the things attached, how your dream is in play. Are you being served to your best interest? Is somebody using you? Is somebody manipulating you? I think there's a lot of that sort of energy going on, and it's really weighing on your mind. It's not easy for you. Anytime we have a situation like this worries everybody. It's kind of like you just putting yourself in all the way to a relationship, and you may feel that someone else is not. You may feel that it's not really fair, because you wanted this dream. You did, and you may not feel that the dream is really being fulfilled. Instead, you may be just getting to this confused place where you're just trying to see around and make sure that everything is actually real the way that it's supposed to be. I just don't know that it is, Virgo. We'll clarify all these cards. I hope that didn't come out confusing. It's a very difficult thing to read, of course, but that's okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull a fantasy oracle, and we'll go from there. And then we'll clarify the cards. Okay, Spirit. Any oracle messages for Virgo right away? Okay. We have the founder, foundations, and community. So this very greatly, foundations, this is you. I think right now you are having a self-evaluation in the things that affect you deep to your core, right to the foundation. The community aspect, I think, of course, refers to your relationship with the outside world through relationships. It could be that this is not your partner. This could be somebody else, some other relationship, maybe a community situation, your place and how that fits. But I see this more as the foundations aspect, where you are the foundation, Virgo. There is self-evaluation happening, and we'll continue to pull cards, but I think there's going to be some serious pensive energy into the foundation and things going on there. Okay. Now I'm going to try and clarify. Okay, Spirit. We'll clarify this Ace of Swords for Virgo. We have the Three of Cups. Continue clarifying the Ace of Swords, Spirit. Knight of Pentacles. Okay. That one flipped right back over. That happens sometimes. I don't like to pull those cards. It'll come up again if it's supposed to, of course. Five of Cups, or Five of Cups. I'm not crazy. Okay. Now we will clarify the Four of Pentacles. Ace of Pentacles. Three of Wands. Strength. Now we'll clarify the Six of Wands. Okay. We have Five of Pentacles, and we have the Nine of Wands. We have the Knight of Cups. And now we'll clarify the Nine of Wands. Judgment. The Devil. Nine of Cups. Very good. Okay. Now we'll clarify the Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups. What do we have for Virgo? Eight of Pentacles. Six of Wands. The Empress. Okay. Now the Justice card, Spirit. Clarify the Justice card. Page of Wands. King of Wands. Three of Swords. Okay. And now the Lovers. Eight of Swords. Mm-hmm. The Hierophant. Okay. Hierophant's been showing up quite a bit, but we'll continue to clarify. Okay, we have Eight of Cups. Yeah, okay. And this one goes on the Queen of Pentacles, Queen of Wands. It's a very beautiful energy, Virgo, on this card for sure. Okay, now the Queen of Pentacles, please, Spirit. Five of Wands, okay. We have the Hanged Man. Oh boy, okay. Now we'll clarify the Four of Swords. Temperance. Ten of Cups. Beautiful. Nine of Swords. Here, coming up on Four of Swords. And now we'll clarify the Moon. Clarify the Moon, please, Spirit, for Virgo. The Magician. Queen of Swords. And Five of Swords. Now I'm going to try and clarify this Nine of Swords for you, Virgo. I'll take one or three cards, Spirit. Four of Cups, okay, yeah. Okay, and I'll take one more pass, Spirit, for the Nine of Swords. Anything else that Virgo needs to know about its guiding card? No. Okay. Very good. There's a lot of feeling, contrary energy, lots of thought happening too. Pensive energy, I get. And it is reflective, of course. But I'm going to go into all of this in the comprehensive. So if you click the link in the description below, it'll take you to my website where you can join me for the comprehensive, and I would love to see you there. There's a lot to discuss. I do get so many more answers in the comprehensive, but if this doesn't resonate with you, that's okay too. That's perfectly fine. And if it doesn't fit, then don't force it. I can't resonate with everybody. It just would be impossible. There's too many different versions of Virgo. There's too many different arrangements in the birth charts and all these other things. And we also have free will. So it doesn't line up with everybody all the time, but if you want to click the link and see me there, I would love that. Also, like and subscribe if you like this content. I would appreciate it. I'll pause here.